this is my audience. And hello, my name is Kanchana Vijayratne. Imagine you are at a work function and your boss approaches you and immediately starts criticizing your physique and your most recent job performance. Now, most of you, I know, are already thinking of the retorts and maybe feeling a little defensive already. How dare he? Most of us would remonstrate him for that lack of professionalism and his candor. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, if you were that same worker, it would be considered outright rude for you to question his opinion and to voice that immediately. Although the traditions of this small island of Sri Lanka has brought about a history that is rich and unique, it has also shaped its cultural values of the inhabitants, which in some ways can lead to detriment of the individual. We are going to explore how the collectivism, high power context, and competitiveness in the way of gender roles can prove restraining. In order to understand those cultural values, we must delve into two of the bigger influences on this Sri Lankan culture, which would be the caste system and the majority religion, which is Buddhism. Sri Lanka has been around for a long time, over 35,000 years, which means that its civilization is pretty complex. It is a tiny island that's right in the middle of the Indian Ocean, right under India. Actually, it looks like a little teardrop. Basil Fernando's article excellently details the caste system and its effects. Kulina is the term for the upper caste system, and then Kulahina would refer to all people lower than that. Principles of the caste system were quite simple, basically denial of social mobility or social mixing, and use of disproportionate punishment if one did try to escape his social status. Basically, if one from a lower caste system tried to ingratiate himself with the upper caste system or did not follow the rules of that caste system, which dictated even what silverware he could eat from and what gatherings he could go to, not only was he punished, but also his family and the community that was connected to him, basically his in-group, which in a way illustrates collectivism at its worst. And because of the constant civil war in Sri Lanka, 20 to 25% of those people still live below the poverty line. So even though the caste system isn't officially recognized, a lot of them have to live in those kinds of socioeconomic positions. For a lot of those people who live in poverty, religion is an escape. And in this case, 75% of Sri Lankans are actually Buddhists. Basic tenets of Buddhists is actually defined by suffering. Existence means dukkha, which is suffering. And also the cause of dukkha is considered to be attachment or craving. Escape from that same dukkha or suffering is attained only through nirvana or enlightenment, basically death. You are only able to leave this world through nirvana or enlightenment. To exist on this world is to suffer, and there's no respite. It's pretty dark, huh? These dynamics of the caste system and Buddhism set the stage for a culture that is high in collectivism rather than individualism. So collectivism, meaning community-oriented versus individualism, where the self is the priority. Collectivistic culture, as defined by Understanding Human Communication, our class textbook, defines it as communicators that feel loyalties and obligations to one's extended family, community, and even the workplace. So in the example I gave at the beginning of this speech, a Sinhala person would view the workplace as deserving of his loyalty and would not dare question it. Communication in this culture places greater emphasis on remaining calm, collected, and saving face for the greater good of that in-group. Whereas we, as an individualistic culture, would be more emotionally expressive and to directly communicate our problems and our perceived affronts. Sri Lankans, more commonly known as Sinhalese, also have very strong family ties that extend to the daily living, so it's not uncommon to see a family live with grandparents and cousins and uncles. And elders are respected above all. Children are expected to take care of them into their old age. Families of great importance and make up the majority of a person's community, to the extent where even arranged marriages are still considered acceptable by the young people, because it goes without question that elders know what's best, especially when it comes to choosing a partner for one's whole lifetime. This cultural value of collectivism also ties into the views of Sinhalese on authority in daily life. Fernando states in his article that social organization in the pre-colonial Sri Lanka was based on the caste system, and it so conditioned the Sinhalese to be servile and to live in fear. The textbook explains that distance or power distance refers to the extent of the gap of social groups and the power and influence that they possess, and the gap between those who do not. People in this kind of society do not question their position because they are surrounded by a culture of people who have been living this way for so long. They believe that they, like everyone else, holds a certain position, however unjust, in a hierarchical society. In the scenario I gave in the beginning, a single person in that position would dare not question the boss's opinion because it would be considered rude of a subordinate to do so. Basically, being subordinate is considered respectful and deserving of one's status. It is actually common to show subservience by kneeling or even touching an elder's feet. Low power culture such as ours would not have that same reaction. That boss would have been reported to HR so fast, and we would consider it in poor taste for a superior to treat us as a non-equal despite our difference in positions.